guys, welcome back to Critical Flick. Today I'm reviewing the conclusion in the overall first season of Emergence. So as you have seen in my previous reviews, Emergence is a show that I've been enjoying this year. I don't watch a ton of network television, but I wanted to check it out. I thought it had an interesting premise, and it's been kind of a mixed bag between different episodes. So picking up from the last time that I reviewed this series, we are seeing the conclusion of the main story arc, the main part of this season. We don't know yet if it's going to get a season 2 or not. I actually would really like if it would get a season 2. I feel like it has enough interesting storylines. It did enough world building in this first season to really implement having another season and fleshing out this huge overarching idea that they created with the end of this first one. So as a whole, I will have to say there are some things that I really enjoyed about this season and some things that I really didn't understand or didn't enjoy that much compared to the others. And I have to say the best thing that I liked about it were the performances. I think that Allison Tolman as Jo was excellent. I think she played the role perfectly. She played a character that had a lot of layers to her and also had a lot of comedy to her. And that's the thing that I feel like most people don't talk about the show, is it does a really good job of balancing the serious events with some lighthearted comedic elements that mix in with the family moments. And that's some of the things that make the show special. Allison Tolman's performance as a mother, as a ex-wife, as a police chief, she's able to blend these roles together and to create a very compelling character, someone who you like to root for, someone who you're getting to understand them. You see that they're flawed, they're not a perfect person. And that was just a solid outing by her. I would like to see more of this character and more of Allison Tolman in general, because I think that her storyline and the little bit of the background that we did see with her were the best parts of the show. And as I mentioned, the family moments, I think that's the other very strong aspect of this show. Obviously, this show is on network television. It's ABC, usually fairly wholesome network. But having this family grow through these events, having the balance between who Piper is, her fitting in with the family, trying to balance that existential issue of, is she human? Does she deserve the same rights as a human? Is she property? What do we do with that? And having that take place in this small family, in this small town, is something that added a little extra to the show and the story in general. Speaking of Piper, Alexa Swinton, the young girl who played Piper, I think she did a pretty solid job as well. I think that basically everyone in the show did a decent job. Sometimes with network television, they can be a little, over the top, a little melodramatic when you're watching these shows. But having a little more of a subtle take on a character, a little bit monotone, maybe a little low energy for some people, but I think she played that role well as someone who doesn't fully understand who they are, someone who's developing and kind of being thrown into this situation that how could you imagine being an AI, discovering who you are, discovering your powers, trying to help the ones that you love, but dealing with, that connection with the others that, you maybe not really understand with the other AIs. I think she played it well. It was a little low key, but I thought it was solid, especially for such a young actress. Now, all that being said, I think some of the few issues that I had with this series in particular is just the plot line of it. It's very twisting. It's very weaving. There's a lot of, twists and turns that are happening throughout the course of just one season. They try to do a lot of world building in this first season. It seems like they kind of didn't know whether or not it was going to go on to have a second season, obviously. And they tried to get as much information, as much characters, and as much, general world building in this one season. And I thought at times it was a little overbearing. I thought it was a little hard to follow. Picking up episode from episode, things progressed so quickly and so fast that I wasn't able to really appreciate or understand some of the story elements. You obviously have Auger Industries and Kindred in general seeming like a major focus of this show, and then having that kind of get swept away very quickly. Having the villains pop up and go away, and then they're not villains, and they're anti-heroes, and then they are villains. I don't love that. I don't love having constant twists and turns. It's okay to have a big reveal, maybe after a couple episodes, maybe after a season or two. But it felt like constantly we were trying to have those gotcha moments with some of the characters. In particular, Emily, who I thought was an interesting character. I thought as a villain, she was interesting because she has a personal stake in the issue. She's obviously projecting herself onto Piper, her family issues with Kindred. I thought that was really compelling, and I was kind of thrown off by her at first. But then as she twists and turns, and she's a good guy, bad guy, I don't know. I just didn't love her storyline and where they ended up going with it. Helen as the main villain, I guess, at the end of the series, and then ended up kind of being even more to do with her actual original creator. I don't know. I mean, she had some good performances. The actress did a solid job playing this AI, this evil mastermind. But like I said, it felt so rushed that I was never able to understand really her motives other than she kind of wanted to rule the world. She wanted to do these things. She wanted Piper's abilities. She wanted to overtake humanity, or just, I felt like they tried to have so many different villains with so many different motives all in one season that none of them really felt that impactful. If we would have just stuck with one, particularly Emily, I think would have been an interesting one. Richard Kindred also was semi-interesting, kind of being that tyrannical CEO that doesn't know the line between morality and profit, something like that. But now we're going to just basic AI and evil take over the world stuff. I think they could have done a better job, and maybe they will flesh that out more in season 2 as we are seeing the overarching things with the Department of Justice and maybe the government and just the big picture stuff. I think once we get to the big picture stuff, it could develop this story a little bit more. But on its face, when we're first starting out and it getting bigger and bigger and bigger, I wish they would have just went big to begin with. I don't need the gotcha of, oh, is it a company? Now it's, this thing, or it's this rogue agency, and now it's the whole government. It's like, I could have just done with just go to all the FBI's bad or the CIA, the Department of Justice, just do that, flesh it out, let us understand, let's have this world building, have this relationship with the villains, and understand the motives of everyone involved. But I don't know, maybe season 2 they'll flesh that out more. Another element of the show that was kind of hit or miss me was Joe's relationships. I obviously think her relationships with her daughter, with Piper, with her father were some very, very compelling moments. Some of the best of the show. It had some really heartfelt moments, and Allison Tolman shined in those moments. But when they kind of had to force in love interest or the love triangle between Brooks and her ex-husband, I don't know. It just didn't hit for me. I don't feel like that was a necessary storyline. I felt like we were naturally going to go there we were kind of building it up with Benny, then Brooke shows up. I don't think it was needed. I think she's a very strong character that could have held on her own. We don't need a love interest. Maybe people like that. People do like having love interest in a show. It's something that adds an extra layer to it, but I didn't feel like it was entirely necessary. And that being said, I thought Agent Brooks as a character, while the actor did a solid job and he does obviously serve a greater purpose, he is a little bit more of a plot device. He's a substitute for Benny in the earlier half of the season. He's the guy getting all the secret information, getting into the secret places. Then Brooks comes along as an FBI agent. He's able to get information and get into the secret places. And it's just like, I felt like we just substituted that character for a different version of that character. And I thought Benny became vastly more interesting once we understand that he's an AI and his motivations and his relationship with Piper. I thought those moments were better. We didn't even need Brooks as a character, honestly. I think that Joe could have carried it. Allison Tolman could have carried that role by herself. She didn't need that character thrown in there. That's the other real main issue that I come about when it talks about the storyline of it, is that we had so many characters that I feel like a lot of them, other than Joe in particular and Piper to some extent, didn't have moments to shine. They all had their own interesting little stories, but none of them really stood out because they all were 1 or 2 episodes and then they were gone. Richard Kindred, I thought that was going to be a really interesting character played by a really great actor, and they kind of just, he's gone after an episode or 2. Then you have Emily, who's sparingly in and out. She has maybe an episode 2 or shine. Helen, episode or 2. It's just no one really had those moments to build up who they were and get you invested. Because, I mean, that's the thing that these shows want. They want you to be invested in the stories. They want you to be invested in the characters. And I can't say, other than Joe and her family unit, that I really was that invested. One thing that I did really like about the finale, though, in particular, is that it drew on some of the more sci-fi and horror elements of the show. I feel like we got away from that, particularly after the first couple episodes. The last episode is really good, in my opinion. I think it's probably the best episode in the series. I really enjoyed the pilot. But I think the last episode, having the face-off with Joe and Helena, having Benny kind of sacrifice himself, completing his arc, having all these things kind of come to a head with her and her ex-husband, Brooks leaving, all those things coming together, they did a good job of it. It didn't feel like we left too many things on a cliffhanger. Obviously, the series ends with a cliffhanger at the very end, but it's not a cliffhanger that you can't live with. It's not something that this season wouldn't be complete or this series wouldn't be complete if we just ended it here. Like I said, I don't want it to end here. I would like a season 2, but I'm glad they didn't make it where, okay, if you don't watch the next sequence of what's going to happen, this whole series just kind of doesn't stand on its own. I like that the show writers had a clear goal of where they wanted to end this season, and they got there. Have it be very quickly and very twisty and turny, I might say, but they did get to the ending. So, all in all, I will have to say, I really did enjoy the first season of Emergence. I hope they make a second season. I think that all the actors and the show writers in particular created some really interesting and compelling characters that I would like to learn more about. I also like that they created a pretty big world. There's a lot of world building going on with different agencies, different companies, different things that will make you kind of interested in the overarching Emergence universe. Maybe seeing where these people came from, how they got this information. They plant the seeds there to make a lot of interest for future stories. So let me know, if you watched season 1 of Emergence, did you enjoy it? Who was your favorite character? Obviously, Joe and Allison Tolman were great standouts. I can't wait to see what more comes from her, whether it be season 2 or something else. I know she was at Sundance recently, so I can't wait to see how that plays out. But would you enjoy? What stories did you enjoy? Where do you think it's going to go? Would you like to see a season 2? Leave those comments down below. Remember to like and subscribe, and see you next time.